Fox News.
The FDA is warning to not use off-brand versions of the popular weight loss drugs Ozempic and Wegovy and sold online because they may not contain the same ingredients as prescription products and may not be safe or effective. Agency officials say they have received reports of problems after people use versions of the active ingredient in the drug. I'm Lee Silasera. This is Fox News.
And we're back again. It's a beautiful Monday here in the great state of Tennessee. You are live with Kip Capley, Talking Tennessee, me and my friends, Lawrence Sutton, Chris Morris. Back at it again, baby. How are y'all doing?
Doing good, buddy. How about you? Look how sharp you look today.
Sharp-dressed man.
Sharp-dressed man.
Where you been?
Been trying to do work of the good people. Been trying.
Well, you normally
dress
do.
Up every now and then.
Yeah, you normally do, but I mean that's sharp-looking outfit.
I appreciate it. Got the bolo, and we're hanging out.
Yeah.
Hanging out.
Yeah.
Dress up a little bit every now and then.
So what did you have to do today to get dressed up like this? It wasn't for me and Chris. I know that.
It might have been. It might have been for
Oh, Lord, it's time for me to leave.
Oh, Lord. I was up in Nashville, had a couple meetings, and, just gearing up for this special session next week. So
I'm sure you're really looking forward to it. I can just tell.
I tell you what, I'm just about tickled. I'm excited.
Are you?
Mm-hmm. And for the people at home, that I'm being very sarcastic. I'm not excited at all.
So you met with William Lamberth today?
Yeah, we had a meeting. Several of us. It was probably 16 or 17 legislators.
Tell people who William Lamberth is.
Yeah, so William Lamberth is our majority leader of the House. He represents the majority, which is Republicans. We have 75 Republicans in the House. We elect him as our majority leader. He serves as our main voice on the floor, and he's also responsible for carrying the bills of the whichever gubernatorial administration. That's kind of his role in the General Assembly.
So he would be a step under the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He would be kind of a step under, and so he's.
But it sounds like he's got a lot of power if he's taking some of the governor's initiative, especially in this special session right now.
And he's made it clear to us, and I know we've talked about this before, and he's made it public that he's not going to carry any kind of red flag law or anything like that. He's told us that, and some of the more bad ideas, I guess you could say. And now that the call's come out for everybody at home, the call is the general aspect of what topics could be introduced in the special session. And from what I've seen, I don't see a red flag law being able to fit in that call, which is good. Now there are some other things that we'll have to look at the legislation as far as actually how that affects Tennesseans and different things like that. But he's assured us, numerous different times that he's not going to support a red flag law or anything like that, which is good. It's good to hear.
But there are openings though to have gun laws introduced.
There are some, I guess, chapters that could potentially be opened up as far as looking at firearms legislation and different things like that. And we're going to have Representative Rusty Grills call in here soon. He's going to talk to us a little bit about some of the things that he's got and his ideas and the conversations that he's had. So we'll be able to get another opinion and hear what he has to say. He's a good friend of mine, great conservative leader in the House. You really can't beat Rusty Grills. I mean, he's a fantastic man.
And I second that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I put him right up there with you and Clay and Todd. He's a good fella.
That's great company.
That's good company.
That's great company.
Yes, sir.
So, I want to say when we were sitting here a week ago,
Yeah.
the call hadn't been issued. And the call got issued last Tuesday on the 8th, late in the afternoon, the official call.
Yep.
And what really gets me as a true constitutional conservative that I consider myself, and I consider you and Lawrence.
Yes, sir.
I also considered our governor that when I first voted for him. And he's stuck to those guns, but he's been an utter disappointment. And he's got 18 points, Lawrence, as you and I well know.
Right.
In this call. And number 11, are you looking at it?
I'm not looking at it. No, I got something
let me
else.
read number 11. I want you to think about this. Measures encouraging the safety storage of firearms, which do not include the creation of penalties for failing to safely store a firearm. You know, that's opening Pandora's box right there. And this may be not what we consider a true red flag, but it's a red flag warning for me. It's a mini flag.
So explain that concept then, because when I hear that, I'm more worried about civil penalties than I'm worried about the law coming down on somebody if they have their firearm stolen.
Well, the thing that I see with this, and Kip, I know y'all have talked about it up there.
Yeah.
You know, you start telling people you got to put your guns in a storage safe.
Right.
And you got to keep your ammunition separate in another room. Okay? My thing is, number one, you should be able to put your gun in your home anywhere you want to, in your vehicle anywhere you want to.
Yeah.
I've seen article from Senator London Lamar over in Memphis, who used to be in the House and then got voted into the Senate. They just didn't have any choices over there. I'm sorry. But, you know, she even is throwing bullets at the Republicans for passing a law for you can keep a loaded firearm in the trunk of your car.
Yeah.
Well, that is your constitutional right.
Sure.
I'm sorry, but it's the way it is.
Yep.
And
Now, are you talking about a long gun in the trunk of the car, or any kind of a gun?
Explain that. Y'all passed. You may have not been in the House. It may have been the session before.
I'm going to be honest with you. I can't remember on that one. We'll have to get Rusty in here in a minute, and he can expand on
Let's
on
wait
that
on
because he
him
was there.
because I don't want to say nothing wrong.
Now, as far as 11 goes, and I think I'm allowed to share this information. I wouldn't see why not. And Lawrence, I had asked some questions. I know me and you had talked, and we hadn't had a chance to get into this before we got in here. But
Right.
I don't think that is necessarily the direction that number 11 is going.
So what is the
it's-
direction?
I think it's. I don't know how to say it without just saying it. I think it's more creating a more friendly environment for people to have the opportunity to do such a thing. Such as, I think I'm allowed to say, I mean, I wouldn't see any reason not to say it, I guess. I just can just come out and say it. I think there's probably an incentive for some tax breaks on buying things to,
Like a safe
for example, a safe or something like that.
where there
or
would
like
be
the
absolutely
logs or-
no tax. You know.
Well, didn't we have that already on the
well,
sales
they,
tax
they
with
had
safes?
Something happened. And Rusty can talk about this too. I think Mike Sparks had a bill at some point that there was, or maybe it was like a sales tax week.
Yeah,
or it was
it's for the year. It was a sales tax for
something.
the year on
And-
safes.
I think that's the direction that's going. And then there's another step too where I think they can let THP or like do a campaign or whatever you want to call it to let people know that the THP gives out those little, what do they call, the little orange locks that you get when you buy a Glock.
Safety
Right.
The little, them little deals. THP
Right.
gives those away for free.
Right.
So a lot of people don't know that.
I throw mine away.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't have one either, but
Listen, let's be realistic.
Yeah.
They give them away free.
Yeah.
But it's taxpayers' money
Sure.
that have actually purchased this for them to be able to give them away for
Oh,
free.
yeah, absolutely.
So, nothing's free, not even the air we breathe.
That's right.
So, my concern is sort of like that chipping away at the
Sure.
iceberg that I talk about. This is another chip.
Yeah, well, and I've said it
If
for a
something were to
while.
pass, I know it's
Yeah, no,
called,
yeah.
he give 18 different points,
yep.
but the number 18 is a very broad one.
It is.
And if you're really standing on a conservative platform,
Yep.
he has made it where he can use whatever amount of appropriations needed if any of his 18 points pass, no matter what monetary cost. it is to the citizens of the great state of Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
So what we're doing is growing bigger government.
Well, and the concern that I raised too is I'm not encouraging something and enforcing something are two totally different things. I mean, we don't
That's right.
we don't encourage people to go the speed limit, right? It's a law. Like this is what the speed limit is. It is enforced. You either do it or you don't.
Oh,
I mean,
I thought it was like a magic 8 miles or 9 miles above the speed limit. That's what I thought it was.
Plus or minus 8. Yeah, hey, you never know. I mean, anything's possible. But
I was recently in court dealing with that in a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone over in Giles County.
Things happen, and I'm just not for. I don't like forcing people to do much. I'll just tell you that. I'm more of a freedom guy.
Well, I think all of us are.
Constitutional guy.
Constitution guy, but that's the thing that bothers me is that even just mentioning it is a dangerous, slippery slope, in my opinion.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because what person wants to get their firearms stolen? I mean, even the criminals don't want to get their firearms stolen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, nobody's going to go out and look at it, but just mentioning it and just even thinking about a civil penalty, that would be like, would it not, if somebody stole your car, got drunk, and killed somebody, and then you're going to be responsible because they stole your car? It's the same thing with the gun.
Yeah.
I mean, me personally, I'm not going to leave a gun in my car. I'm just not. But
You're responsible.
I'm responsible. But you know what? There's sometimes people are going to be in positions where they may have to leave their gun in the car if they're going to go into a certain business or businesses. And that's just not me, because if that business is not going to allow me to have the gun, I'm just not going into that business.
Which
I'm going to spend my money elsewhere.
We tried to do some of that this year. I caught a little bit of heat from some folks back home and across the state because I had a piece of legislation that would let people carry in courthouses.
Right.
So we caught some heat for that. It didn't work out. We're going to go back to the drawing board and try to fix it again. But it just. And I know I'm preaching to the choir to everybody at home, but if a criminal knows, for example, if I was someone that broke the law and I wanted to steal somebody's firearm, it wouldn't be too hard to figure out, well, okay, I'm going to camp out in this parking lot over here. I know whoever goes into this business right here cannot carry their firearm. I'm sure we've all done it before. You get out and you're like, crap, I can't carry this thing in here with me. Oh, no banging. Sorry, I was hitting the table. I can't carry this thing in here with me. So what do? You reach around to your back, wherever you got it or in front. You pull it out and you throw it in the truck or behind the seat or whatever else. It don't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Okay, well, that guy just left, a gun in his truck. I'm going to bust out the window, and I've hit the lottery. So,
that's right.
My whole thing is if it's on you, kind of hard to be stolen by a criminal.
Kip, think about it this way. Anything could be considered a weapon.
Sure.
My hands.
Yeah.
Okay? Mm-hmm. But, Lawrence, talking about leaving a gun in your vehicle and somebody breaking in the vehicle, whether you leave the doors locked or unlocked, and they get your gun. And then they go out and commit a crime with it and shoot somebody.
Right.
Yeah. It's no difference than somebody stealing my vehicle.
That's the point.
And just like, where was it, in Wisconsin, where that idiot ran through that parade?
Or was it Charlotte?
Christmas parade.
Yeah.
Oh, Christmas, yeah.
Yeah, the Christmas parade and did all that. So if they steal my vehicle and they run out here and Lawrenceburg's having their Christmas parade and they run over 20 people and kill 12, am I liable for that nut stealing my vehicle?
No.
So that's where we're headed.
That's where we're headed just by that being mentioned, in my opinion. And I could be wrong.
Hey,
this is my opinion.
We can talk about it. I mean, you never know.
But you don't even know.
Yes,
they're not even letting you know.
You're correct.
Did you learn anything today that could be helpful?
I learned a couple. We had a meeting today. I learned a couple things. I learned about the what we mentioned earlier about number 11, which
Yeah.
kind of alleviated the conversation, my concerns from the conversation that me and you had.
Right.
I learned about some things that Rusty has. Whenever he calls in, I'm sure he'll want to talk about his ideas. And there's some other ideas that people have that I think are good. Right now we have a big problem in the state of Tennessee, and especially in Memphis, and let's not go too deep down the rabbit hole on Memphis, but I guess from what I've heard, there's a situation now or I guess across the state, where some of these criminals that have stolen firearms will have a younger, someone that's not an adult with them in the car. And if they get pulled over by THP or local police or whoever. Is that Rusty? Yep. All right, folks, we got Rusty Grills calling in.
Well, finish your thought
finish
there.
that on there.
Another state representative. by the
Another
way.
state representative, Rusty Grills. Let's see if we can get that.
Can you finish your thought there on
yeah,
Memphis?
Yeah, absolutely will. Rusty, I'm talking about Memphis right now. Hold on 1 second.
I can't quite hear you, Kip. You're a little bit weak.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now? We'll finish
Very
the
weak.
thought on Memphis. What about now? Breaker.
Keep
Hold on.
adjusting.
Keep adjusting. We're trying.
They're moving more knobs in this studio today than I've seen it move the whole time I've been here.
Rusty, you've called in and broke the system, son. Can you hear me now?
That's what happens. Can't hear.
There
Hey,
you
we'll
are.
just do the best we can. Let's just work with what we've got. What do you say?
That'll work with me. Wait, can you cut him up a little bit? In Memphis right now, let me just start all over.
Yeah.
In Memphis right now, a criminal could theoretically, and they have, oh Lord, what they'll do is an adult offender will have a younger individual in the car with them. They get pulled over with an illegal firearm. They'll pass that firearm to the younger individual and let them catch the charge for it.
To the juveniles.
To the juvenile.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
they will physically hand the firearm to the juvenile, let the juvenile catch the charge for it, and then when they turn 18, that goes away.
It's expunged from
Yeah,
their record.
and then they can go back out and buy another firearm or do whatever they want. So that's kind of another thing that I learned today. But good friend of mine, Rusty Grills, state representative from District, I think you 77,
77,
right,
yeah.
Rusty?
Yeah, that's correct, Kip. And I don't know who all we have on the show with you here. I haven't met any of you guys, but thanks for the opportunity to kind of call in. And I was watching or listening to it on the Facebook there as I was driving back in from Nashville, and you brought up a couple of things with some of the things we were talking about. And I want to just address one of the bills that we're working on, that I'm personally working on
Yeah.
right now, and that is the Kip was explaining part of it there is if a 16, 17-year-old now knocks the window out of a vehicle and they steal it. Obviously, it's not theirs. They are sent to juvenile court. Well, juvenile court, you're really not a criminal at that time. You're just a delinquent act. So what the bill that I'm carrying does, it actually allows the courts to be petitioned and send that offender to adult court so they can be charged as an adult. There's, in my opinion, everyone that knocks the window out of a car should go to adult court. They should, they should face the justice system like a man. If you can knock the window out of someone else's car to steal their gun, you ought to be able to take the penalty that goes along with it. Well, what happens is these juvenile offenders are continuing to commit these delinquent acts, and then when they turn 19 years old, the justice system gives them a dry erase. Like a dry erase board, they give them an eraser and go up and say, all right, all of your crimes that you've committed as a juvenile or delinquent acts, we're going to wipe them away, and those crimes are never to be remembered or held against you anymore. And I think that's a problem that we have in our justice system now, and it's causing us a problem, and especially in places like Memphis and Davidson County, even in some of the smaller towns that have some gang violence.
Yeah.
But that's one of the issues that hits home with me, and I've got some passion about.
Yeah.
So you're trying to remove their, like the game of Monopoly, you're trying to get their get out of jail free card removed.
That's correct. We're trying to fix it where they can't use the justice system against us.
Yeah, Rusty, you're on with me. Obviously, you know me a little bit, and then Chris Morris just spoke. I think you know him. This is Lawrence Sutton as well. Just wanted to introduce y'all here over the waves. But Yeah, Rusty, thank you for explaining that. I know I kind of butchered that a little bit, but
That's not a problem at all. And if there's any way you could get some more volume out of you guys on to my phone, it would be awesome because I can barely hear you. Another thing that y'all brought up, I believe you said something about the cars and the guns in trucks. Or
Yes.
Guns
Yeah.
in trunks.
trunks, yep.
I believe that was passed back in about 2013. And any gun that you can possess in your home, I believe you can possess in your vehicle. I don't believe that's just exclusively to handguns. But what people like myself and Skip, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you agree with me. We don't believe that you should have to lock your guns up in your vehicle. We believe you ought to be able to carry them on your person.
Yeah.
You know, self-defense is just not exclusive for areas that have no guns allowed signs on them. That doesn't mean you're safe when you walk in there. That means you put a target on your back. And I believe you can look at the every. It seems that every place where act of violence takes place, they're gun-free zones.
So I had
more times than not.
Right. I had seen, this is Lawrence, I had seen a study that was done over more than 50 years. Actually, it was almost 70 years, from 1950 to 2016, where 98.4% of all mass shootings took place in gun-free zones.
Yeah, that's crazy. I heard a story one time of out in Texas. There was a church that was going to have a huge building fund offering, and they had been advertising it for quite some time. And the pastor of the church, one day, you know, they made their plea, and they were going to have the offering taken up, and he saw that the shady characters come into the back, and the pastor, with his wisdom, they all say a prayer, but as everyone was fixing to take up the offering, he said, "I wish everyone bow your head, close your eyes, and I want you to look at me. If you're thinking of doing anything nefarious in this building, I wish all the men in here that are carrying would stand up." You know, he said about 3/4 of the men stood up. Said, "Okay, yeah, sit down." Now all the women that are carrying in this church, y'all please stand up. And said about half the women stood up. He said, "Now I'm fixing to pray, and as I pray, if you have any idea or have any desire to do anything to be nefarious with this offering taken up, I suggest you leave right now." So he prayed, and while he was praying, those two gentlemen got up and left. Now there is a statistic out there that we don't know, but that is how many crimes are not committed because people have the ability to defend themselves. All we hear about are crimes that are committed with weapons, guns, cars, whatever. But we don't know how many lives are saved because guns are there to defend yourself. I believe it would be safe to say that even this shooting that took place in Nashville earlier this year, there's all kinds of rumors floating around about how many other targets could have been out there. Well, we don't know because that's a qualifier that we just don't know because there may have been places that she was going to hit up, but she did not because those places were not soft targets. And we know that soft targets seem to have more casualties.
Sure. Yeah, and Rusty, if you remember, I think it was in Civil Sub that we both sit on. Todd Warner brought a guest.
Yes, I do.
Was she she was in college or she was at the grocery store or something? She was assaulted.
Is that the guest he flew in here?
I can't remember.
That was a fantastic testimony right there.
Yeah.
And I think she used a statistic of 60,000 crimes a year are prevented because people have the ability to defend themselves with a firearm.
Yeah, I mean, she told us in the committee meeting that if it wasn't for her firearm, then God knows what would have happened to her.
Hey, Rusty, this is Chris Morris here. Let me tell you something that happened just recently. It actually happened about 75 feet across the state line in Ardmore, Alabama, right there where the state line is on 53. And there was a store that got robbed, and there happened to be a good Marine who was getting gas, and he seen the criminal draw on the clerk. So when the criminal walked out, he ordered him to drop his weapon. He ordered him the second time. The gentleman varnished his weapon towards him, and he shot him right between the eyes and dropped him graveyard dead right there in the parking lot. Now, this guy had robbed another convenience store down in Athens, Alabama, before deciding to get off at exit 1 in Tennessee and to rob the store there in Ardmore. But not only did this Marine do the right thing, he helped protect others because this guy was also a registered sex offender out of the great state of Ohio. So these are the things, and this just recently happened this year, Rusty, and these are the type things that are going on. So, you know, when you got your weapon on you, like in the Wild Wild West, as I've mentioned on Kip's show before, people carried and they knew better. There were still people that did things wrong, but hey, you didn't mess with nobody because you'd get your rear end shot.
Yeah, Memphis is not the most, not the safest place in Tennessee, is it?
No, sir. Neither.
No.
Nashville's getting to be just about as bad. It's not as bad, but it's getting there.
It's bad. I would think it's bad.
Yeah, Memphis is definitely a dangerous place, and you know it's unfortunate because, and we talked about it today, Rusty. I mean, it seems like they just elect the same people, or even if they elect new people, nothing changes. It's almost like they're content with how their city is.
Well, Rusty probably seen this article. London Lamar from over in Memphis, state senator over there, put out all these statistics, and you are correct, Rusty. 2013 was the year that the gun in the trunks was passed, and she started going after every bill that the Republicans has passed dealing with gun laws. But she was talking about now all the more children are killed in the state of Tennessee by guns than any other cause. That's not true. No. Natural causes is the leading cause of death, people and children in the great state of Tennessee between the ages of 0 and 17, and that comes strictly from the Tennessee Department of Health website.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but that's what liberals do. I mean, they take figures, and there's an old saying that figures lie, and liars figure. Well, she's taken those figures and she's lying.
So go figure.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. You're exactly right.
Well, I think it was President Reagan that said that it's not that liberals are so dumb; it's just they believe so many things that aren't true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reagan's politically correct. We're not.
Have y'all ever heard of Reagan when he said, we must reject the idea that every time a law is broken, society is guilty rather than the law breaker? It is time to restore the American precept that each individual is accountable for themselves. And that's what we've got to get back to, that the individual is responsible for themselves, and they're not thank God for good police officers. Thank God for good sheriffs. Thank God for safe security.
Come on.
But the individual is responsible for their own security and their own well-being, not some government organization or government entity.
Amen.
And government is not there to guarantee your security.
Yep.
They are there to protect your constitutional rights. And we got to always remember that we can never sacrifice our constitutional rights for the security or the safety that some other person is trying to sell, because they are selling you something, but you're actually purchasing what they're selling with the rights that God gave you and that our Constitution guarantees you.
Amen. Amen. I'm going to tell you, our sheriff here in Lawrence County, John Myers, John's a friend of mine. And I think if I needed John in an emergency type situation, he would do anything he could to get to me or my family. But I'm going to tell you something. He ain't going to have time. Yep. 99.9% of the time, the police are not going to have time to defend myself or my family.
That's where seconds matter.
Oh, yeah.
That's correct.
I was talking to a deputy in Murray County, and he said oftentimes that there'll be one deputy on one side of the county and one deputy might be on the other side of the county, and it takes them upwards of 45 minutes to respond for backup.
You're talking about two deputies on shift in a county the size of Murray.
Yeah, and there could be more, but if there's a situation where it's just two or whatever, whoever's working, backup could be, and it could be more than two. But he told me that sometimes his backup has been 45 plus minutes away. So not only is it just one deputy, and that's even if the deputy gets there in time.
Right.
That's even if they can respond to the situation without, God forbid, somebody getting hurt or shot or killed or whatever.
Right.
That's if they can even get there. On top of that, if the situation's bad enough, like, you got one deputy 45 minutes away. I'm sure all our deputies in Lawrence County and Murray would love some help.
You darn straight they would. But, it comes back to this, too, a lot, is it almost seems like this is a war on guns, just like we had the war on drugs. Remember the war on drugs in the 80s?
I do.
How has that worked out? How's the war on drugs worked out? So now we're going to have the war on guns.
It can't. We got open borders. How's it going to work out?
Yeah,
with open borders.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And what is it? Fast and Furious with the Obama administration, and then we got the Biden administration giving the Taliban all of our guns too. I mean, so the people that want to take away our guns, they're wanting to be morally superior to us.
Just think about what you just said. We got, like you just mentioned, Fast and Furious, where our own government is giving the cartel guns, where our own government is giving the Taliban guns, where our own government is paying for building walls in foreign countries, and anybody that wants to build a wall in our own country is somehow has some racist undertone. So therefore, everything that they don't want for America, they want to give to other countries at the expense of Americans.
Absolutely.
Doesn't that just tell it all?
Well, that's the reason we're getting involved right now, Rusty, and thank God the work you have done all these years, and keeping us safe and trying your best to keep our freedoms. And buddy, I hope that you can convince your other legislators to please leave our guns alone, leave our ability to defend ourselves alone, and let us make the decisions that need to be made as a family, as individuals.
Over there, and I'm going to use some biblical perspective here. Over there in the Old Testament, you have the Philistines going to the Israelites, and they convince the Israelites, don't worry about taking care of your ironworks. We'll do all of your blacksmithing for you. We'll do all your smithing, I believe it's actually the way it's worded, smithing for you. And then the Israelites realized before long that they could no longer, they were dependent upon someone else to take for their weaponry, for their hoes, for their shovels, for all of their working utensils. And they realized that there was no smith in the land. Well, they realized that that's a biblical principle there that was laid out, and the Israelites became in bondage to the Philistines because there was no smith found in the land. And I just think it's kind of
well, Solomon says
that a Smith and Wesson is what so many people look at to be the standard in the firearm world, and the King James Bible says there was no smith in the land. Maybe that's what he was referring to, back in 1611 when that was translated.
Absolutely. Well, Solomon says nothing new is under the sun, and we've done the exact same thing to our country with China. What you just said, what the Jews did to the Philistines.
And taking the example, Rusty, you're giving a great biblical example. But look at modern day Cuba. Look at Venezuela. Look at Germany. Look what happened when the government took their guns.
Russia and China killed 100 million people by themselves.
That's true. But just look at this. So, our forefathers were led by God, and it's amazing how they had, gave us our God-given rights and the fortitude that these guys had back then to help protect us even in this century today.
Mm-hmm.
So here's something that I was looking at. Newsbreak just broke this out, and it's talking about how we have a senator that is looking to write laws that is going to make any kind of a gun crime a minimum of a 5-year prison sentence. Have you heard about this bill?
I have not heard about that particular bill. I have heard that there's some thought, and right now everybody gets all giddy over that. I don't know what the context is, so I'm not going to try to put words in someone's mouth, but we got to be careful whenever we take. I mean, Rahm Emanuel, Obama's old chief of staff, he said, "Never let a crisis go to waste." Well, that doesn't, just because they got an R by their name doesn't necessarily mean it's a good idea.
Oh, amen.
Well, this happens to be the state senator for this senatorial district 26 that has put this in the press.
Yeah, it's in the press. It says Wally, who is Paige Wally, is proposing a separate bill that would require a minimum of 5-year sentence for using a firearm in a crime. The bill would mirror a federal law and mean that offenders face the same minimums in both state and federal courts and cannot plead to a lower sentence. Unlike federal law, under current Tennessee law, there is no mandatory minimum sentence for using a firearm in the commission of a crime, Wally said. This discrepancy creates a loophole for violent criminals to avoid a longer sentence. This legislation would close the loophole and ensure that these offenders are behind bars for at least 5 years. So one of the, and maybe you'll know more about this than I do, but one of the things that I looked at is what happens if somebody forgot that they had a gun in their car and they happen to get caught picking up their kid at school? Are they going to face a minimum of a 5-year prison sentence at that point?
Actually, it's I believe you can actually have a firearm in your vehicle at school as long as you're going in and out. You can't get out and brandish it or anything like that.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go. I learned something today. I was not aware of that.
I didn't know that either. That's why you got to ask old Rusty.
Yes.
Ask old Rusty.
Hey, his name means he's not Rusty.
I might get lucky every now and then and get something right, but I've only been there for. This is only my second term, so I'm just serving in my. I finished 1 year for Representative Sanderson, and then I was elected, and now I'm serving my second term. So this is only my 4th year.
Well, I know this. There is a gentleman over in your area by the name of Richard Archie. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
I know Richard well.
Yeah, and Richard thinks the world of you. So if Richard thinks the world of you, then so do I.
Well, I appreciate that. Richard's a good man. Richard's going through a lot right now. He has a sick daughter, so y'all need to keep him in your prayers. And
we have been. I try to make contact with him at least once or twice a week.
Yeah, y'all at home, make sure you pray for Richard Archie, please.
Yes.
Yeah, he's been going through a lot. I do want to give a shout out. I like to aggravate the fire out of Kip and give him a hard time as much as I possibly
Oh, so do we.
But I do want to give him a little bit of credit because he was on one of the committees this year that serves that I serve on. That's the Civil Justice Subcommittee and the Civil Justice Full Committee. And I had the bill that expanded firearm protections in the state of Tennessee, and it's a pretty big deal. And Kip, Chris Todd, Gino Bolso, Rick Eldridge, especially they stood right beside. And we moved forward trying to get all of these, get this thing passed and across the finish line. We have not got it there completely. The tragedy took place, and we realized we didn't want to be insensitive. And there's a lot of people that have lost loved ones, and we just put that under the shade tree. But it's not over. It's just parked right there right now. So but Kip's been a lot of help there, always asking good questions. And then occasionally when bureaucrats come in to overreach and get beyond their constitutional duty, he was there to help put them back in line too. And believe you me, there's nothing a bureaucrat hates more than having to be put back in line and stay within their constitutional confines. And we experienced that more than once, didn't we, Kip?
We did. We had a good time with some of these bureaucrats. Maybe a little bit more fun than should have been had. But yeah, we so what he's referencing, folks, back home, I guess what's more commonly known as what people call it is the real constitutional carry bill that Rusty and Chairman Chris Todd had this year. We had that sucker moving. I mean, it was moving in a positive direction, and we were really, really excited about it. And unfortunately, the tragedy took place, and like Rusty said, we kind of had to park it under the shade tree. And I'm not taking any credit for it at all because between Rusty and Chris Todd, they have spent countless hours working on that thing, making sure it is locked up, sealed tight, ready to go for our rights. And we're excited to, down the road pick that back up. But I appreciate you saying that, Rusty. I know y'all.
Can I ask both of y'all a question? Were some of these bureaucrats paid employees of the great state of Tennessee?
Rusty, I believe all of them were. Isn't that right?
There were some that all the bureaucrats were paid employees of the state of Tennessee. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
I thought they were. So I hear our mutual friend, Rusty Richard Archie, talk about this quite a bit.
Sounds like Tennessee needs some purging of these people.
He has some passion in that lays at that direction. I would give him that.
So, what do you expect, Rusty, to come out of this special session? What do you think can happen, and what would you like to see happen?
Well, I think what we're going to see, probably the bill that I just mentioned earlier when I first got on about the bill that I was carrying. I think that bill has a good chance to pass. I think we're going to see that, I'm calling it the firearm safety portion, where they remove the sales tax on gun safes, gun locks, and anything that helps prevent
Locks. That was on locks.
Right.
A child's access to a gun. I think that, anytime you take the taxes off of something that's conservative, it's a good thing. I think gun safes are great. I think gun safes are good things to have in your home. I do not believe that gun safes are the only way you can keep children safe, though, in your home. I've had this conversation today with a guy, and he's like, I believe everyone ought to have a gun locked up, even if they're in their home, especially if they have children. Well, my response is, what happens to a child that goes to a house that doesn't have children in it, and they find a gun there? You shouldn't criminalize someone for that. So I said, my thought is, we don't gun-proof our houses, we gun-proof our children.
Absolutely.
Somewhere there's a live firearm, they know how to handle it. That doesn't mean that you're irresponsible with it, but that means that you're responsible as a parent, as a guardian, to make sure that child knows how to handle and respect. Because anytime you have a firearm, there is a responsibility to make sure that it's put in a manner that's safe. But people make mistakes. We live in a sinful, fallen world. And when that person makes a mistake in this world, and that child could stumble upon it, they know how to handle it. And that's the way I have 2 children. I have gun-proofed my children. And I don't have to worry about, oh, my goodness, are they going to go to my mom and dad's house? They're going to my grandparents' house. They're going to go to a friend's house. And they're going to see a gun laying around, and for some reason they're going to try to play, cops and robbers. No, they understand what the power that weapon possesses.
Because you educated them. I've done the same thing with my 3 children. I educated them, and then I would give them plenty of opportunities with unloaded firearms just to see how they would react when they were little.
I would tell you this. I think everyone should take a handgun safety training course. I don't think you should have to. I think you should, because it helps you learn about firearm safety. It helps you learn about the firearm laws. It helps you familiarize yourself with different situations that you may have not thought of. But that doesn't mean that because you take a course, that somehow your constitutional rights are more readily available to be executed. And too often we were like, people to think, well, they shouldn't carry until they have a course. That's not what the Constitution says. And that's where I am on that. But because I'm responsible, I want to make sure that I have educated myself, educated my children, and anybody around that's interested, they ought to do the same, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Well, and you've said it like a true conservative constitutionalist would say, is that you should do it. You should be given the opportunity, but not made to.
Yep.
And that's the whole thing. To me, I'll just tell you, I don't think we have a mental health issue as much as we have a morality health issue in our state right now.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
And it is so hard to give a drug to fix a moral issue.
Sure. I mean, people, and I'm going off the rabbit trail here, but if you kind of step back and look, we have Americans in this country that are quite literally giving chemicals to their children to change their gender.
You can't change a gender, but I
Well-
know
well,
what you're saying. You're to make them more feminine or
whatever.
Yes.
Chop them up, cut them off,
Yes.
yada, 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 to make that child into a different person that they were born into, that God created them as.
Right.
We have people in this country that are doing that to children.
Well,
Yes.
those are sick people.
Yeah.
And they should be brought up on charges of child neglect and put in prison.
Yep.
Is what should happen.
I agree.
And it's the same thing with these drag queen shows, Rusty. You know, where people think it's okay to carry your children to drag queen story hour. Same thing.
Yep.
Sure.
But those same people
me
would
take it a little
absolutely
bit
have a
further.
fit if I took my kids to a shooting range
Yep.
and teach them how to handle a firearm properly.
You
Well,
have something else, Rusty? I heard you
I
for a
just was
second.
gonna, I was going to take it a little bit further.
Yeah,
For
come
the
on.
past 30, 40 years, we've been hearing it's a woman's right to choose. It's a woman's right to choose.
Come
if
on,
I wanna-
preach it.
If I want to terminate a pregnancy or not. And what we have done, we have taken life and we have cheapened life to the point
Yep.
where it's an inconvenience to you and your career that you can
Mm-hmm.
just extinguish it because you are in control.
Sick.
Well, God is the one who let that life come into existence, not you. You may have created a situation that you don't necessarily want to be in, but that was not the child's fault.
That's
So
right.
why-
Hey, Rusty, you and I are both old enough to you and I are both old enough to remember The Price is Right, and Bob Barker as a host. At the end of every show, he used to say, please get your pet spayed or neutered. Well, if you don't want children, you need to go get yourself spayed or neutered.
Oh,
Yeah. You know, I heard a preacher say, he said, we live in an age where we we let our kids out at night and put our dogs up. And boy, does that not tell it all?
well,
Amen.
you know what we've been doing with abortion is no different than what the Jews did with sacrificing their children to Moloch. And since 1973, we made it legal up until last year or so.
Thank God.
Thank God is
Roe v.
right.
Wade.
To sacrifice
Overturned
our
it.
child on that altar of Moloch.
Yep. Yep. It's
Yeah. What a shame.
we live in a twisted
But, you know,
society, in a twisted world, and the only way we can turn this ship around is, and I really believe if you turn from God, He'll turn His favor away from you.
Oh, he says that. He gives, matter of
Yeah.
fact, Romans chapter 1, we're living in Romans
Yep.
chapter 1. God gives them over to a reprobate mind.
Yeah, we've talked about that before too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're
We've heard that quite a bit with the word R, or
Yeah.
the letter R.
Letter R, yeah, Rusty. You know what the letter R stands in front of your name? It stands for Republican. But do you know what it stands in front of some of the other people's names? It's called reprobate.
Well, I want to be I want to be a Christian first, conservative second, and a Republican third.
Man, he sounds like
He sounds like us, doesn't he? That's exactly what we say.
Hey, Rusty, I say, this is Chris again. I say I always do the triple threat. We're Christians first, we're constitutional second, we're conservative third, and Republican fourth.
Yep.
Well, and I do believe that there are more the largest party out there is the Republican Party that has a conservative leaning, and I do appreciate that. And I agree that it's okay for somebody to disagree with me, but that just because they disagree with me doesn't make them right. And I want them to understand that I believe what I believe because it's based on the Christian worldview, not on something that somebody has means tested or poll tested, but because I realize one day I will have to stand before God and give an account of how I live. Not so I can attain heaven. That's not what I'm talking about. But because a saved, born again child of God ought to live to a standard that represents their Savior, and a conservative is the only way a person can do that, in my opinion. There is no way that you can be a liberal and support the things that liberalism supports and call yourself a Christian, in my opinion.
Amen.
Hey, say it one more time.
Yes.
Say it one more time, Rusty.
Loud
Say it
and
again.
proud.
Yes, sir. That's
I don't believe
awesome.
that all liberals. I don't mean that liberals are going to hell. That's not what I'm saying. I believe anybody that's trusted the blood of Jesus Christ to make atonement for their sin will be going to heaven. But there is a walk that a person should have with Christ on a daily basis that says, okay, the way I'm walking identifies me with Christ, so therefore I am a Christian by the way I live. And I think that a conservative lifestyle is more in line with the way Christ would have us live than a liberal lifestyle.
Well, I would put it like this. If you are for abortion, if you're for homosexual marriage, you are going against God's tenets, and you cannot be a Christian and live in sin in that aspect. Now, we all sin. We all fall short to the glory of God.
That's daily.
That is daily.
All the time.
But when you have gone that far where you say, God, you are wrong, then that's a different story.
Yeah.
When you're and when people are, with the poor homosexual, when they're being affirmed by the liberal side, that in itself is hate speech because they're sending these people to hell. Me telling them, or Chris or Kip or somebody, their pastor telling them, no, you are going to hell if you live that lifestyle. Same lifestyle if somebody wants to live in adultery or somebody wants to live as a murderer or a liar.
Drunkenness or something like that.
Right, you're going to hell. And if you don't tell them, but you affirm that sin, that is true hate speech.
Absolutely.
Rusty, it's been a pleasure having you on this show.
Yeah, this is the fastest hour going. I mean, we got 4 minutes left.
Golly, Rusty.
Is there anything you want to add or to say to let the people here in Lawrence County know what your thoughts process are coming on this special session?
I would love to for us to not have to be in this situation, but Governor Lee has the constitutional authority to require us to come in. And since we're going in, he made the call so much more narrow than what others were expecting it to be. Because he's made that call so much more narrow, and I was actually on the working group that the governor put together throughout the summer, and we met several times, and we had some very heart-to-heart conversations with him. I'm appreciative that he did not go down the red flag trail, and just so you know, the red flag trail led to nowhere. And that bill would wind up coming through civil, which is Kip and myself and 2 or 3 other hardline conservatives stand on or sit on. That bill would have been dead on arrival. And anyhow, it wasn't going to happen there. So for that, I'm grateful. We're going to get there. We're going to have. I'm sure there'll be somebody that makes the motion to adjourn, but we're going to probably go ahead and move forward and have a 4 or 5 day session. We'll deal with 6, 8 to 10 or 12 bills, something like that. Maybe even as many as 20. And then I don't think we're going to see anything that's going to encroach on anyone's rights, Second Amendment rights. Don't see it happening. Kind of like Ray Charles, can't see it. I can't see it.
But Rusty, over a 4 or 5 day period, can you guys really debate and read and look over 20 bills, though?
Well, and I will say this: if that is the case, we usually vote on 25 to 30 every session day that we're there, whether it's on a Monday night or a Thursday. And if that's all we're doing and going through in committee, it may have we may have less bills to actually deal with this week, this special session week, than we would on a regular session week. Now, I'm not saying that this is an ideal situation. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that that's the best way to go about it, because I believe it should be in extraordinary circumstances that we're doing this. And it's not, but since we're there, the governor has stayed away from the red flag stuff. There may be somebody that tries to bring some red flag stuff up, and if they do, it's going to die. It's going to die quick.
Well, from your mouth to God's ear, then.
Well, listen, we've really enjoyed your.
There are some things that we need to do, and maybe the mental health and the services that we do not have. Kip brought up how you're a sheriff there in one of his counties had to drive 2 hours for a person to get mental health treatment. That's unacceptable, because it hurts y'all sheriff's department. He has to drive 2 hours, then 2 hours back. So you're losing 5 hours a day on a deputy just for that individual or that person that's been arrested to get the treatment that they need.
Okay, we got
Some of
15
those
seconds.
problems need to be.
I'm sorry, Russ. We got 15 seconds. We still haven't said anything about
About
our
strikers.
About
Oh, man.
strikers.
Shout out strikers.
Shout out to strikers.
Yeah, thank
Rusty,
you, our
shout out
sponsor.
to you.
Thank you, Rusty.
Thank you so much for calling in, my friend.
Thank you.
God bless. Thank y'all.
God bless. Well, Kip, send us off, buddy.
Hey, shout out to Striker Steakhouse. Love y'all so much. We appreciate you tuning in to the show. Make sure you keep up with the Facebook page, not only WDXE, but WLX everywhere else. We still on?
You need to take it.
We lose it. We on off.
You're still on, so.
Oh, man. Hey, tune in. We're not going to be here next week. I'm going to be in session. Follow for live updates. Thank you all so much.
Yes, and don't forget we have the Republican Party meeting tomorrow.
Yeah,
actually, tomorrow 6:00 at the courthouse. Hey, if you are wanting to learn what's happening, you need to be there.
That's right.
Don't stay home.
And find out about the special session on August 22nd where we're going up.
Yes, August 22nd now, not August 21st.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Welcome to this edition of the Rich Eisen Show live in Los Angeles, California on the Roku channel. This Rich Eisen Show terrestrial radio affiliate live on Sirius XM, Odyssey, and so much more. We say hello to our podcast listeners. Click on our podcast RSS feed if you don't mind. All 3 hours every single day. Check us out on our YouTube page, Twitter, Instagram, I got that right. Facebook, TikTok, for the kids, for the fellow youths out there. We're everywhere. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. That's another reason why we love doing this every single day. We love talking with you, not at you. We talk with you here on the Rich Eisen Show. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Good to see you over there, Christopher Brockman. How are you, sir?
Great. What's happening?
DJ Mikey D is in
morning,
D's
Rich.
Nuts.
Good
Good to
morning.
see you, sir.
Good to see you. Good morning.
TJ Jefferson, is that candle lit already or what? Yes, no, yes, no, yes,
You
no.
know how we do,
the
Rich.
answer
The
is
candle
yes.
is always lit.
Fantastic.
Come on, I am.
We've got a preseason week of football in the book.